good morning, everyone. This is the EFS Modernization Release 3.0 transition call. We'll get started in just a few moments. If we could please have some folks type in the question box to let us know that you can see our screen and hear us. Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started here. Again, for those of you just joining, this is the EFS Modernization Release 3.0 transition call. And I know we have a lot of details to cover here. One thing, just a reminder to all of you on this call, we want to kind of stick to the very critical items. So if you ask questions that aren't related to these items, we'll get back to those later. We're just going to focus on questions that come in that are of critical nature. And again, we may pause for a few moments looking at the question before we respond. So just want to set expectations here. And we do have a couple of items that we're going to go through down towards the end of the agenda after we get through the critical items to give you a couple of demonstrations on things that we think most coalitions are getting hung up on, but that actually they do work in the system. It's just a training issue. And also we had a lot of questions about school readiness application statuses. And if you look in your handouts, you've got both the agenda as well as the document with the school readiness application statuses. This is the changes from pre-release 3.0 to current. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Rob to give an update on where we are with the review of the data that we've had all the coalitions working on.
Yes, good morning. So yesterday we did re-engineer some of the migrated data. We did, delete some broken records, and when we say delete, that's a soft delete. So we're not losing those enrollments. What we're planning on doing, we pulled them back from the child match process, and we're going to regenerate those again, and that's going to happen sometime today. We generated that document for the coalitions to review and provide feedback. There were some questions on whether or not you should review all records or just the ones that are in particular statuses. We did need answers on those ones that are, you know, do you want to keep or delete these records? But if you have time, please go through that list and make notes on whatever record you think needs to be corrected. I talked to Diane this morning, something that would be very helpful for us. Some of those records that were in the assumed successful, we did find a match on those records. However, it could have been a match on a previous guardian or something like that. So if you want to give us a column or a note on that particular record that gives us the SR application ID that child should be associated with, feel free to do that. We'll probably have to generate another report for you to do that, so you can see all of those records that we're trying to fix. So again, I'll talk to Diane and get some specific instructions on what she needs on that, and then give you a couple of examples. So we'll get to that this afternoon. Diane is working through those reviews that were returned. Not all coalitions have responded to that, so we're going to reach out to the ones that have not responded to find out the status on that. We would like those returned, I would say, by close of business today, in order for us to be able to make those corrections that need to be corrected, and then that is going to essentially help us get the family and the provider portal back online. So I'm sure there will be some questions on that.
Yes, I'm sure there will be. So while we wait for those to come in, number 3 is a list of the critical development items that we're working on. And we're hoping to do a push later today that would include these items. So just briefly, there was an issue where on some records, the parent signature was not coming over on the payment certificate. So we've got a fix in progress for that. There were some cases also where there were issues with the income calculation and copayment. So we're working on a fix for that as well. The eligibility search feature, not being able to search by child last name or parent last name, that also is in progress. The local funding enrollments and local funding setup, that is in progress. The error message that you were receiving on the EV records, we're working on that as well. And then opening 1718 provider contracts. And then the last one is creating new SR applications. So we have this reported that when an SR application is inactive, the parent wasn't seeing the new button to create a new SR application. So we're working on that as well. And again, these items we expect to be part of our hotfix deployment that should occur later today. All right. With that said, I'm going to switch over to this other document that we have, and it's the SR statuses. And I'm going to ask Nilesh to briefly walk through this item. And Nilesh, I've got it pulled up there.
Happy Friday, everyone. So in this document, I tried to explain what we did with the SR waiting list application statuses and the new statuses we've introduced with SR eligibility. So if you recall, prior to 3.0, we had a bunch of active waiting, active eligible, active pending documents, a bunch of multiple active states. We've simplified that, so you don't have to worry about on the application level to identify those each particular ones. All you need to do is set it as active. To identify whether something is waiting or pending or eligible, we're tracking that on a child level now exclusively. and it's going to work in parallel with the EV processes. So the only statuses we have for children now are waiting, pending, eligible, and terminated. That's pretty similar to what we had before. We just did a little text edit to get rid of the active part. And then I tried to do a explanation on, you know, our thought processes with the waiting list application statuses. So if you guys can read through this information when we send it out to you, and if it doesn't make any sense, please let us know. If you can stop right here. The one thing we want to note here is that you can skip the wait list only for the initial submission of the SR application. But if you put a child on, if you set a child status to waiting, you cannot set them to pending from the SR waiting list application. Rather, you would need to navigate to our eligibility wait list feature, which you would pull up that little, it's like a work queue, and then you can select multiple children or a single child and send a funding notification using that feature. So you want to utilize this to take people off the wait list, and doing that will track information that's going to be important, for example, when they come off the wait list and whatnot. So we want to utilize this tool to get kids off the wait list instead of skipping the wait list.
All right. Thank you, Noash. Is there anything else you want to cover on here, or just let them read that? And then
I think it'd be best if we just let them read through it, and
okay.
if we're getting a bunch of questions, we can revisit that on the next call.
Okay, and we're also going to include this as an excerpt of the user guide that Jim's working on completing. Okay. Do you want us to switch over to some questions, or do you want to just go through and show the redetermination and unable to enroll error, how to get around those?
We could.
If you're set up, let's go ahead and finish that.
I'm as set up as I can be.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so a lot of questions we have been getting is, how do I see the eligibility button and the enrollment button? Because a lot of folks they're going through the redetermination, and then OEL has went ahead and set all of those EDs in a coalition reviewing state, and they're just getting confused on what to do at this point. So in order to have access to the eligible and the enrollment buttons, you're going to have to first change the household status to active. Once you do that, are they refreshing the test environment? I might have timed out since I've been here for too long, or this might be a bad test record. Let me see if I can find another one real quick. Actually, all right. Let's just say this one went to active. So now it's in active state. You can see that at the top corner. You should have access to the eligibility and the update enrollment buttons. When you are looking at the eligibility section here, It's already going to have its authorization period set for redeterminations and then their initial eligibility assignment that we migrated over, as well as enrollment. You may not see the enrollment within this box. In this example, you can see that there's 2 enrollments here. And the reason why I'm able to see this enrollment here is because the start and end date is within this eligibility assignment start and end date. For the migrated cases in EFS Legacy, their start date was it wasn't done in the way EFS Mod is handling it. So the enrollment range could exceed multiple years because it was just a continuous enrollment. And whenever you made an update, like a co-payment update, it would update that existing record, opposing to writing a new row and preserving the history. Rather, it did it in a different way. The way EFS Mod is going to handle it is we're going to be setting up their eligibility assignments, and we're going to be setting up their enrollment. So the data you have set up in this eligibility assignment, so if we're looking at this 622 to 1221, the data that was defined in this eligibility assignment will be carried into this enrollment. So in this particular eligibility assignment, their co-payment ended up to be $3 or $1. $3 for full-time, $1 for part-time. If you make a change with this, then you would then need to create a new eligibility assignment that reflects the new changes. So, and once you do that, then you can set up enrollment and attach it to this eligibility assignment within these date ranges. So let's go back to the other record real quick. Just going to go ahead and 6/21, 2020. So this should look familiar when you're opening up a redetermination. You're going to see your current authorization period. You're going to see your eligibility assignment. You may not see your enrollment because the date ranges. The start date of that enrollment exceeds this eligibility assignment, but and then you'll see this next authorization period. This is where you want to start to work in. You want to, once you've redetermined a family and you go ahead and you're wanting to set up their next eligibility assignment and their next enrollment, you're going to want to work within these dates right here. So you don't want to hit updates. This information was migrated. It has the values that were migrated over. We don't want to update these values. We want to go ahead and create new values. So we're going to click this Add Eligibility Assignment here. We're going to set up their information. I'm going to diligently check each one of these and make sure that it is working correctly. For example, if I were to pick BG1 and if I were to pick 14R, I think this is the standard codes is defining this at the most, I believe, a six-month authorization period. So I would need to make sure that these dates reflect that. If they don't reflect that, it's going to pop up with an error. So you need to know these codes that you're putting in and what you can and cannot do. We don't have the validations in place, so you would have to know this information before you set this up. So I know that BG8 Econ is a 12-monther, so I'm just going to stick with that. So it's already predefining as 12 months because the majority tend to be 12 months. I'm going to go ahead and say the match funder is any. For the priority, I'm just going to make sure that this information should be pre-populated based on the birthday, but in case you need to pick one of these down here, we left it open. They're full-time. I'm not going to make any adjustments to the copay, and I'm going to click OK. So now I see that there is a new eligibility assignment that I created for the next authorization period. It's not done yet. I still need to hit save. Once I hit save, now I have my next authorization period set. This is intact. I could start doing enrollments with all of the new information that we've defined in this eligibility assignment. So I know it's going to start from 6/22/19 to 6/21/2020. So when I create this enrollment, the earliest date I could do is 6/22. Once I put in that date, this information should be populated with what was in that eligibility assignment. So if I were to, pick 2019, it just changed to the correct authorization period. So be very careful how you do this. The anticipated start date is going to determine which eligibility assignment you're going to be pulling from. So I know that I want this enrollment to start yesterday, 07, 05, or I'm not sure now. 2018. So it went ahead and picked the correct authorization period. All of this information looks okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set up their schedule. I think we need to look at this because I'm pretty sure if it's in school, these are required. So we need to put the asterisks back there. I think we got a Javar's nodding over here. We got a ticket for that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and do it on behalf of the provider. And there we have it. Now it's pending family acceptance. So the family would need to log in, sign, and certify. And once they do that, it will be available for the providers to start doing attendance. So if it takes them a week or two to get it done, it just means that they won't show up on the attendance roster. But as soon as they do it, they'll show up on the attendance roster, and then they can go back and backfill up to, the day we started. So that is pretty much how you should process a redetermination, from setting up their next eligibility assignment and enrollments. Just to reiterate, a lot of coalition staff have been seeing some errors when setting up their enrollment. And that tends to be because the eligibility assignment that was migrated over wasn't, or missing some sort of information. So a good fix for that is to actually click the update on the migrated eligibility assignment and then just verify all the information is correct. And once that is done, you should hit OK and save it. Actually, I didn't make any changes, but once you've verified any information and fix all of the information and you hit save, then the eligibility assignment would work, and then you would be able to go and do the enrollments properly.
Okay, thank you very much, Nilesh. We know that these two things were blocking a lot of people on processing your enrollments and redetermination, so we wanted to make sure that we showed that, so at least you know how to get around that for those of you who are working in a family portal, in the coalition portal and trying to process some of these records. All right, we're going to go ahead then and switch over to the questions. And again, we're only going to address these critical ones that are about the data review or anything that's blocking work now. Give us just a moment to start looking at these questions. Okay, we've got a good question about they're finding multiple families that have active enrollments that are on the deleted migrated list that was posted to SharePoint yesterday, not the ones listed as review. So let us clarify about the deleted records.
Yes, so the deleted records, I think deleted was probably too strong of a term. We basically pulled those back from the migration, and we are going to, those could have been good and or bad migrations. What we're going to do is we're going to redo those again today. So even though they were on the deleted list and they could have been a clean record, we still deleted them because there was some, it could have been overlaid with another family or something. So we're going to redo those again today. And before we do that, we'll send those records back out to you to have you verify that before we do the second migration. So just be on standby for that. More direction will be coming soon. We don't.
All right. More questions about how long do we have to keep working on the other records. Again, Rob stated earlier, ideally we'd like you to finish getting through the records today. We want to make sure the records are accurate before we turn the family portal and provider portal back on. All right, next question is, how can we show process 3 months to reestablish purpose for care? Do we have to end and create a new eligibility assignment when completing the 3 months under a different billing group and purpose for care? Please explain the eligibility data map or date map. 12 months are off and they tend to start one date earlier than the 12 months established in EFS Legacy.
So there's logic for the review period. So if it is going to be on the borders of two authorization periods, you know, if they're coming close to their RED and you're trying to put it in review period, there's logic to extend it and work that. And as soon as that is done, you'll have the ability to credit the days towards their next authorization period. You would, yeah. So we can do some documentation to show that process, but once that review period is completed.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're getting a question about the SR plan rate. What do we enter for full-time wrap daily rate? Is it just the full-time rate?
Okay, so in the SR rate plans for the coalitions, there are 4 units of care that are not supposed to be there, and those are the wrap rate and the full-time, and the full-time, part-time. You don't need to enter anything for those for the 18-19 year. We will disable those. They should be inactive, but they weren't.
Okay. Thank you. Next question, is there a time limit for parents to do the terms and conditions? No, there is not a time limit on that. Okay, we've got a question about the current RED dates for those families that are currently due to redetermine. Nilesh?
Okay, so just a reminder, we went ahead and set the next authorization period up as if we have assumed they've been approved for their redetermination. So yeah, so once you do that and once you determine them, you can go ahead and set that up, but until then, they'll just continue to be enrolled as they are right now. So the authorization period is there. It is set. You won't have to worry about extending or modifying it. But once you're ready to set up their next eligibility assignment, just set it up and set up their next enrollment if any of the data changes.
Is the CCNA referral page up and running? Yes, it is.
Sorry, go ahead.
There was a question about children who are enrolled in the wrong provider on the list that was sent out, the report. So please make a note of that when you send that back, and we'll take a look at those enrollments to make sure that if there are corrections that need to be made, we'll make that.
Okay, we have a question about when do you expect to send the deleted records out?
We don't have a timeline on any of that. Our database people are reviewing the records right now, and as soon as she gets done, we're going to, based on that is where we'll generate the other records to send back out. So if we get all of the reports in today, we should be able to create the new reports for you to review. We keep getting questions about what we want in the file with the extra column. I will send out a written communication on that so everyone will have it on paper and they can address those issues. That'll give you some more direction on what we're looking for and hopefully timeline.
Okay. Another clarification, you want us to go through all the rest of the assumed correct and the new batch of deleted records you are going to send today by close of business today. Yes, that is what we're hoping, is that you'll be able to go through your records today. So as soon as you can do that, we can look at that data and then get the family portal and provider portal back on. All right, we apologize for the dead air. We're getting some very specific questions in here that I think probably the best approach is that we'll go through these, identify the items that we should do a demonstration for on Monday. Right now, you know, our most critical concern is getting the data in. And so again, we've got a lot of questions about what you need for the data. So Rob is in the process of typing up a communication to all of the folks that are assisting us with the data review side of things, so you know exactly what the expectations are for today. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to go ahead and send out a communication right now to all of the folks on the data side of things so that we can get that information from you. So that'll give us a little bit better idea of when the family portal and provider portal would go back online. Our intention, obviously, would be to have it back up and running on Monday. So, again, let us go through this. If we can get some of this information by the end of the day, we might be able to get it back up sooner. But again, we don't want to just leave it on dead air while we're trying to go through these questions. So we will look at these questions that have come in and respond to you individually, and then also make an assessment and determine what are the biggest things that we can do demonstrations on next week to show you about the features that you have the most questions on. Again, looking back at the agenda, these critical development items, these are the items that we're hoping on doing a hot fix on later today. So we will also send out a communication when these items are ready. We'll have our team, again, reviewing the questions that you all have sent in on this call, and where appropriate, we will have one of our staff members reach out to you to help walk you through a process if you're getting stuck on something that you're trying to get through today. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to sign off on the call now. And again, Rob's sending out his email now, and we'll get in touch with you individually if it's something that you're stuck on right now. Thank you.